Hello there. I am so looking forward to this movie. How are you doing? Have you seen it yet? Yeah, you did? Good. Good. That's good for you.
Okay, we're back here. We're not going to be here very often the next couple of days, so I thought, why not do it right in the comfort of my own home? Anyway, so let's talk about it. On a side note, if you are not familiar with the TV miniseries or Stephen King's novel, then you shouldn't watch this because it's just going to be a bunch of spoilers for you or it's not going to make sense. Just make sure you know something so I can dive right into the whole entire thing. This movie has been getting a lot of love and also a lot of hate. And I gotta tell you, the people hating on this movie are either complete dicks or have expected something completely different. Have different expectations of what Stephen King's story was supposed to be. I personally think with it we have a new classic on our hands. This is a film that will go down in history with the likes of films like The Shining or Psycho or Silence of the Lambs and so on and so on. This is already an absolute classic.
Hold up. Yo, what did my boy just say? Can somebody please rewind that?
First of all, and this is something everybody has already said, the casting is absolutely spectacular. Like, what the kids do is just amazing. I've never seen such wonderful child actors. Everybody did their part perfectly, which also totally blends into the wonderful dialogue that doesn't shy away from profanity, because kids, let's be honest, kids use profanity. I mean, when we're kids, we learn all the dirty words. Some of us still use it as adults and some of us don't. It makes the characters very real, and generally the character establishment is just incredible in this movie. I was really scared of shitty CGI terrorizing the whole thing, but it was used totally perfectly. And what I think most people were bothered by with the CGI was towards the end, when we get to see its lair. All the floating kids, if you know what I mean. I don't think it looked stupid. It gave the whole entire thing this fairy tale-y atmosphere. And this is what I have to add in. A lot of people are also complaining that it isn't genuinely scary, and I have to agree. It is not that scary. I mean, if you're not used to a lot of things, it will probably scare the living daylights out of you, but if you're like gorehound or are used to horror movies like I am, it won't really send shivers down your spine at all. I don't think it was aiming to be naturally scary, but to be visually intense, which it was, and that adds to the suspense. The film in general, I like to describe the film generally as a coming-of-age fairy tale. Because it is not really out for scares. Its main job isn't to scare you. It's not what the movie sets out to do. Stephen King, I don't think, really set out to do that either. It is a story about standing up for yourself, standing up for your friends, and not being afraid. All these kids come from broken homes, and it is
an evil thing.
Giving people the message who also come from broken homes to be bigger than that where they came from, to stand up for what they believe in, to stand up for their character and not let themselves be bullied around. May it be some stupid ass bullies or may it be their parents or anybody else. That's what it is trying to convey. That's its main mission, not to scare the living daylights out of you, as some would say. Which brings me to another thing. As a big nostalgia critic fan, and as generally a fan of Channel Awesome and Doug Walker stuff, I couldn't help but watch the latest sibling rivalry episode where Doug and Rob discussed this film, and Rob actually raised a very interesting question here.
All it is just like, let's answer the question, what if Stand By Me had a killer clown? Like that, whenever I think of it, that's the first thing I think. It's like, here's this interesting Stand By Me story with a whole bunch of drama about bullying and sexual abuse and getting over the death of your parents and missing kids. Yeah, and then, killer clown. They don't go together.
No.
They really don't.
No.
And the movie's
let's
got
get
the
it right.
same problem.
Let's get it right. If it was a killer clown, that'd be one thing. It's a killer clown that can also turn into a mummy, a werewolf, a giant spider.
So what is with the killer clown? Well, I thought about this a long time, and I personally think, especially when you're a kid, we carry these demons inside ourselves, teenage angst. When the problems we have to deal with become so big that we can't really handle them ourselves. It is like the embodiment of these problems. When these problems are just too much to handle, they're that dark depression, the badass Hannah Baker feelings that get you down. I think in King's Head, it is supposed to symbolize just that. It is the monster that feeds on your fear, that puts you down as a person. And since its biggest enemy is not being afraid, which this version really showed very well, I think it is like a symbolism. The killer clown is a symbolism for depression and fear itself. I'm very glad that all of that part 2 is also going to be done by the exact same team that worked on this one. So I'm looking forward to that. Oh yes, and what else worked totally well was moving the 50s to the 80s. Because, you know, when the book came out, the 50s were 30 years ago. When this film came out now, the 80s were 30 years ago. And this also gave the film a chance to create a beautiful soundtrack. We have The Cure on this, we have The Cult on this, we even have New Kids on the Block on this several times. Well, the only part where the effects didn't work at all was that scene with the projector that reminded you a little of The Ring. People who have seen it will know exactly what I'm talking about. The movie almost went straight into obscurity and ridiculousness at that part. Comparing to the 1990s TV miniseries, I sadly have to say, this one's going to really put the 90s version into old school history the same way John Carpenter's Thing did. It's just going to get lost in the past. So that's it for you. And if you don't agree with me, you can go suck your dad, you mullet-wearing asshole. Yeah. No, generally, this is a little masterpiece. It's going to be a classic in the future. Don't listen to the haters. Because they either don't have a clue about what King was going for, or are just being fucking trolls.